Okay, today is Friday, March 26th. This is the Legislative Tourism Caucus meeting. We're going to start right away. My apologies for the delay, but we'll start right away. Today, we're going to hear more about and get a really much more in-depth review of the governor's consumer stimulus proposal that he has put forward. It has not progressed through the House, but it's certainly still on the table. And I thought we thought it was important as a caucus to understand the proposal better and see where to go from here. So we have with us, thank you to the Commissioner of the Department of Tourism and Marketing, Heather Pelham again. She's been a regular guest here, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate the time today. So Heather, I'm going to turn it over to you. And as people have questions, this is an open conversation, obviously, so just raise your blue hand and I'll keep an eye out. So go ahead, Heather.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be back here again virtually. I'm really happy to actually have the time to talk a little bit more in depth about the consumer stimulus proposal, because I know there's been just a lot of questions about what this is all about. So I believe that Heidi may have shared with everyone, we did do a report on the pilot program. I'm just going to kind of go over that a little bit as context, and then again, happy to take questions, talk about this more in depth. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Just for that is the that's the Buy Local Vermont program that was a pilot program that was put into place last year. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So folks can see on the screen now, I believe.
Yep.
So this was, this was a statewide program. It was a pilot that we ran it launched last September. And I think one of the things I want to start out talking about is was really meant as it's a dual business relief and a consumer stimulus program. So I really think it's helpful to think about this through the lens of how does this help small businesses as much as it puts a few extra dollars in the pockets of Vermonters, because that was really the intent, is how do we support small businesses, in the midst of the pandemic. I would still argue that, we're far out of the woods, and that's why this program is still relevant. But that's really on its heart what it was all about. I'm going to come back to this slide because there's a whole lot of information here.
I'm sorry, Heather. Can you just explain I was
going to just use another slide to talk about that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I thought just, to Heidi's point, there's a lot of, what was this all about? So the idea was, how do we support small businesses in a way that brings customers back in the door, stimulates spending? So what we looked at was this. First of all, we actually did an RFP to find different providers who could provide this kind of service. It was fairly competitive. And again, what we were looking for is what could we launch on a statewide basis, that would have the lowest administrative cost. This program did have a 15% administrative cost, but that was far and away the most economical option. So of the $500,000 in pilot program funding, $425 went directly to businesses. And this slide just shows how we looked at the different sectors that we would be able to support. So we really were focusing on retail, restaurants, lodging, health and wellness, and entertainment as the sectors that really needed that kind of support. And so the way the program worked was, the first thing we did was we did outreach to businesses to see who might be interested in participating in the program. They had to, they kind of provided a profile of what they could offer. The company that we did engage to do this work, NIFT, they had direct conversations with all of those merchants so they would understand exactly what this was all about. And really at the core of it is that, let me just see if I have another slide here. So at the core of it is that it was a discount that was offered to consumers. So there's the business sign up piece. And I could go through all these numbers. We had about 1,000 businesses sign up when we went live. And then there was the consumer part of it. So consumers could sign up to be part of the program. And what the businesses would offer was either, in most cases, it was a $30 discount. But there was 2 other tiers. There was also a $10 discount, for say a fast casual type of restaurant. And then we did have a $150 discount specifically for lodging. And the idea was, what is that price point that's really going to make someone make a purchase that they wouldn't otherwise make? And so lodging, clearly the price tag is more than, going in to buy flowers or to buy chocolates or to go to a restaurant. So that's why there was a discrepancy there in the amount of the discount in this pilot program. I will just preface, or I'll just say to all of this, we've learned a lot from this program. And so there's definitely tweaks that we could make going forward. But that's how it worked. And so then when consumers signed up and we had tremendous interest, I would say a little bit too much interest. The first couple of days, we literally sold out in 24 hours, which was great. There were some, bumps in that, but, people were definitely interested in this kind of program. And so a consumer would be offered a choice of, which business would you like to achieve this discount? It was not like you didn't get to choose from every business in the state. Part of this was trying to distribute this economic activity among all the businesses who wanted to participate. So any given consumer would be just given a couple of choices. If they didn't like those choices, they could always say, no, show me another one. And again, because this all sold out so quickly, you might not have gotten a choice right in your hometown, but then that also helped people go to different parts of the state. And what that did was it meant that for all the businesses that participated, as this chart shows, we really tried to spread out all of those funds. And again, this is as much about the businesses receiving the funds as it is about the consumers. And I think that that's kind of been one of the tricky parts in talking about this program, is that, it was really designed to get the money directly to the businesses. So when the program went live, for most of the businesses, and this is the total amount of funding that those sectors received, most of those businesses received on average 16 people, who got a discount to their business. And when the program went live, they got that money. So that average of $436, they got that money upfront. So in this program, there was no money that never went to the businesses. There's nothing that's lost in limbo. As soon as the consumer chooses that business, the business gets those funds. And then the idea is, of course, that the consumers will actually redeem those discounts. So I'm just going to, and then you guys have this report, so you can dive into this more deeply. But, we did see that the bulk of the redemptions were in retail and restaurants. I'm sorry, so Representative Austin has a question. I'll stop.
Yes, on the former slide, it looked like Orleans had a much higher, it was like 8,400. I'm sorry, it looked like it really stood out on a slide much more than others. So I was just wondering if we had figured out why that was. But
I'd have to look at that one in particular. My guess is, so you're looking at one number that's lodging in Orleans, depending.
It was not this slide. It was a slide. Yep. Sorry. This one.
So what I think what that says to me is, again, we're looking at lodging in Orleans County. Mm-hmm. What I'm seeing there is that there's one lodging business in Orleans County.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought they were really successful. So
right. So that's where, we try to open this up as much as possible, but depending on exactly how that worked out,
gotcha.
It's not an exact science. I will say, this program to me is a little bit like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I'm not going to say it's a perfect program, but I think that's what you're seeing there.
Thank you.
Sure, of course.
Sorry, we've got a few more already. Sorry, Heather.
No,
Representative Yantachka.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. I'm just wondering, this was in September, and a lot of places were closed and everything. So how did, for instance, lodging, were hotels actually open and such for people?
Oh yeah, hotels were open. They were open. I'd have to look at the exact dates. There may still have been under an occupancy limit, but they were most definitely open. And that was September was just when we launched it. Consumers are actually still able to redeem these discounts. You know, we promoted it heavily throughout the fall because, again, the idea is that the businesses get, let's call it a down payment, but then, you know, the real beauty of the program is that folks come in, they use that discount and they spend more than that. So in the case of lodging, you know, the $150 might have covered the first night, but if they stay for a 3-night stay, you know, that's a sale that
Right.
establishment might not have otherwise gotten. So all of the businesses involved in this certainly were open. And we did have, as much as we had overwhelming, demand from the consumers, we had that from the businesses as well. We were only able to get just under 1,000 enrolled in time to go live. But even within the first days when it was live, we got, many hundred more businesses who would have been interested if we'd had the ability to bring them into the program at that time.
Okay, yeah, I guess restaurants were having outdoor seating and stuff like that at that time.
They were, exactly.
So that explains the restaurants. What about entertainment? I mean, what kind of entertainment was being chosen?
Entertainment. So it could be, just attractions, so you could go to, I think there were a couple of cultural institutions that were part of this. I'd have to look and see, some sectors, like for the health and wellness, that would be like your days, your hairdressers and so forth.
Okay.
I could look again and see exactly who was caught up into attractions.
Yeah, I guess the categories don't explain everything, but but okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would
I
be,
get the idea now. Thanks.
like the Spirit of Ethan Allen, let's say, if you, something like that,
Okay.
a day experience, Shelburne
okay.
Park, that kind of thing.
Okay, thanks.
Representative James.
Thanks. Heather, do you know, I'm not sure if I missed this earlier. So of the 425,000, after you knock off the admin fee, how much of that is still outstanding or hasn't been redeemed yet?
So in terms of funding, it's all been expended because it's all gone to the businesses. So there's no money.
That's right. Okay. So I guess then to ask the question correctly, that's right. So the money went to the businesses. Do you know how many coupons then haven't been turned in?
Right. So we are at about a 45% redemption rate when this report was put together at the end of the year, which translates into we've had over 7,000 offers redeemed. So, and that's sort of the next part of the story. Exactly. So I'm glad you asked that, is that, what we saw is a couple things we saw in terms of the redemption. One, we are at 45%. I have asked, is that good? Is that bad? And what I've heard from not only the vendor and from other programs like this is that's actually quite good. That, an expectation of 100% redemption is just unrealistic. It's just unrealistic. And so that's one of the nice things about the fact that no money is left on the table. The businesses have already received the upfront investment. What we saw is that the redemption rate was highest in restaurants and retail. And that's why we're, should we be lucky enough to have this be funded again, we would concentrate this program on restaurants and retail because we saw the greatest redemption rate there. In terms of the types of in terms of that activity, the redemption rates on average produced an overspend of 73%. So you can see on this slide here that has a whole bunch of numbers, that the average discount redeemed was just about $26. Most people spent closer to $46. And then the other thing that was really interesting is that when folks did redeem the discount, they were given a survey as to would they go back to that business. 66% said they would go back to that business. And these numbers are right here. 26% have already returned. And what was most, or one of the things that was most interesting to us was that 70% of people who use these discounts were either first-time visitors to that. They're called first-time visitors here, but that means they either had never been to that business before or they hadn't been in over a year. And this is one of the reasons why we think that this is still as relevant now, is that we've really seen through the pandemic that people have changed their shopping patterns and that people have gotten used to the fact that they can order things online. And there has been that disruption in the patterns of, I'm going to go downtown and buy X, Y, and Z. And so this idea that we can give people like an additional reason to go to their local store, or even to just discover a local business they haven't been to before. I mean, that's part of this is some people, would like to see, well, I want to choose where I can get the discount. And, we would definitely entertain how to give people more choices. But to a certain extent, if you already have a pattern of supporting a local business, that's less of a priority for us to incentivize. What we want to do is make sure that you're discovering new businesses and you're discovering other ways to support your opportunity, your community that you might not have had before. So that this result of the new visitors is something that we thought was very encouraging.
Is there a way, and then I'll drop my hand, metaphorically speaking, is there a way to, so I see that the coupons expire at the end of the year?
We extended them so they actually don't expire to the end of this year, to 2021.
So is there a way to reach out to folks with like just even an e-blast and be like, hey, don't forget, you've got your coupon to go redeem downtown or whatever. Is there a way to reach those folks?
Yeah, there absolutely is. And we've done some of that. I will say, because this was because this funding proposal was on the table, there was kind of a balancing act of, could we then also be able to say, like, this is something that's been reauthorized? But yes, there's still an opportunity. We've done that on occasion, but we can certainly do more of that, because agreed, the Vermonters have the ability to still use that discount through the end of the year. So I think to the point earlier, like, again, as we open up that much more, I think the timing, later this spring would be best for that kind of outreach.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was a skeptic, I have to admit, but I'm kind of starting to dig this.
Well, I appreciate the chance to talk it through. I mean, it's one of those things. It is a little complicated, and perhaps I haven't figured out exactly how to boil it down yet to explain it. But
well, you get hung up on the admin fee, and So anyway, this is interesting. Thanks.
Sure, of course.
Heather, just on that note of trying to explain it, I just want two questions, but they might be in-depth ones. First of all, could you explain how it actually works? What people have to do? Well, I will say only explain that if that is the proposal that for the new program. And what specifically is the proposal for the new program?
So the way, just to fully explain this program, the way it worked is that, you sign up via email. And so then basically you have that on your phone, it's
the consumer,
an app, and there is a paper.
The consumer signs up via email through ACCD.
No, it's through a portal. So the company that administered this program is called NIFT. So you go through the NIFT portal. So there's a sign up for businesses that's also done through a portal.
Okay.
When consumers are interested, they can sign up via email or with their phone number. We do, and when it comes to redemption, then when they go to the coffee shop and say, I have this discount to use, they literally, the merchant can just scan that. There's just like an app that they use. They can also, and part of it is that the merchant knows who has those discounts. So as I said, they each got about 16. So they can match up and they can actually say, so if you come up and say, Mary Smith, I have my discount, the business actually knows that Mary Smith has a discount. So they can also just print out, the redemption. So, and I can get more, I can show you more paperwork or screenshots on how that works. Luckily, that was not a part of the program that we had any problems with. Okay. The businesses didn't report, at least not that I've heard, any problem redeeming. And, there was customer service support in terms of how to do that. So, in terms of this proposal, what we're proposing is that we would, we've learned from this, we said, let's double it, let's reach, 2,000 businesses, if we could, or let's, reach that many more Vermonters as part of this program. And I would say that, we would go back out to RFP because, we don't know the exact administrative costs, even if we went back with this vendor. It's certainly, we know this program. So I think that we could get it off the ground that much quicker if we went with this vendor again, but it doesn't have to be that. I think the way that we had thought about the legislation, and I see there's another hand, so I can come back to
Yeah.
this, but was really about like, what are the goals of this program? It's about supporting those small businesses, making sure that the mechanism that no money is left on the table. We would have a longer enrollment period so that folks weren't left out of it if they were either not as technologically savvy, or just to make sure we did that outreach to folks who, just make sure we reach everyone. And then
So-
we can think about targeting it. So
So the proposal for this year, this coming budget year, is $1 million in
Yes.
general fund, or is it is it part of the one-time funds, or
one time.
one time?
And I don't know if Representative Harrison is still on, but my guess is that this would probably end up coming out of the ARPA funds, just like a lot of the other one-time proposals have.
And it would be specifically, it would be you're not going to change the program name or anything. It'll be a consistent Buy Local Vermont program. It'll just continue. It'll just be re-upped.
Well, that would be the idea. I mean, because of, state procurement rules, which I fully believe in, we would put it back out to RFP just
Sure.
because, we want to make sure that we're not missing, some way to fulfill the program goals in another way that would be, more economical. I'll be honest, like, it would have to be a pretty robust proposal to say why we would switch. But I'm not saying that's not a possibility.
But it would still be called the programs Buy Local Vermont.
We would do that just to simplify it.
Continue. Okay. Yeah, there are a couple more questions. Representative Wood.
Hi, thanks. So a couple of questions, and maybe this leads into why some of these things, why this hasn't really sort of caught hold. One is, you already alluded to that there was sort of significant problems, when it went live, and in terms of being sold out so quickly. So I guess that's a good thing. You had a lot of people who were interested in it. But the second, I had a local restaurant who she didn't sign up, yet people were bringing her in coupons, and she was like, I don't know what to do here. I didn't sign up for this program, and I have not received any money. I mean, in the end, it all got worked out, but it was just, I guess, one of those tweaks that I guess would need to happen to verify that people, have fully signed in. And she ended up being able to get the money from she was giving out gift certificates to people, because she said, I can't accept this because I haven't signed up for the program. And I kept saying, well, you should have already received the money in your bank account. This was like, once it was there.
Right.
So I don't know if that happened to other people, or if, she was an anomaly, but so I think that, plus the issues with it selling out so quickly, and people being disappointed by that, maybe left some folks with a bad taste in their mouth. I don't know.
Yeah, it was, I fully admit, lessons learned. There was, we've never done this before. We had no idea how much, interest there would be. You always hope that you get the word out and people are excited about it, but sometimes, okay, maybe we got the word out too much. This is why, if we were to get this program funded again, we would do an enrollment window so that this wasn't this rush. I think that's the other thing is, when you do a first come, first serve, you get that rush no matter what. And that's, again, we realized that was not a perfect way to do it. In the proposal, the way that we've thought about it is that it would be an enrollment window, and then it would be a lottery. I mean, there's always this, like, how do you make it fair? So, if there is more demand than we have supply, people are still going to be disappointed, but I don't know that I would say that that's a reason not to do it. We would just try to mitigate that as much as possible. As far as the restaurant owner, we're a couple of stories of folks, again, of just a little bit of confusion when it went live, but I did not hear that across the board. So I am sorry that business owner, was kind of stuck in the middle there. And I'm glad to hear that it was resolved.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Representative
Thank you.
Dolan.
Good morning, Heather. It's great to see you again.
Good morning.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Of course.
You had mentioned that you might target business sectors. What were those business sectors again? And I have a follow-up on that.
Sure. We thought that again, if we did this again, we were just, from the lessons learned, was that the most redemption we saw was in retail and in restaurants. So I think that there's a couple of things at play. So one is, where was the program most successful? So it was most successful in those sectors because we saw the most redemptions. But then also, what are our policy goals in doing this in terms of like, which are the sectors that we still really want to support? So, so I could see this program, for instance, just being for restaurants, or just being for hospitality businesses, those sectors that have really borne the brunt of this. Retail's a tricky one because, we know some sections of retail did just fine, other retail, not so much. So we do have the ability, at least through this program, to be as, we can, I won't say micromanage, but, we can massage that, which businesses are eligible to sign up as much as we want to, depending on how we want to target that aid. So we do have that ability.
I appreciate that, but our lodges also have, and our inns have suffered. So I would hope that we would just still maintain the opportunities for these other business sectors because of how hard of a brunt they received. And yet we have so many wonderful lodges and inns and bed and breakfasts that it would be just, again, a great opportunity, especially for a second year. When we piloted a project like this, I think we did, as you described, learn quite a bit. But I think as for trying to use this as I think has a bit of excitement, a bit of cachet with it, and I think the opportunity to kind of extend it for another year with these other business sectors, I think will be terrific, because I'm sure that people kind of didn't hear about it until when it was too late, and or businesses. So I would want to put a plug in there. I noted also that we had quite a geographic spread, which is wonderful, but although it was a bit heavy towards Chittenden and Washington County, I'm in Washington County, that's okay, but but I wonder if we could consider some sort of geographic distribution to ensure that all counties could take advantage of something like this. I just throw that out as an idea.
Yeah,
and then I'll pause.
We did we did try to get that geographic distribution as much as we possibly could. There's that balance between the number of businesses that sign up in each county, and then, again, the demand from that county. So that's where it gets just a little bit tricky, because of course there's just more population in, Chittenden and Washington counties. But then as far as the lodging, I certainly don't disagree with you in terms of a sector that could use stimulus. I think the trick was just, we didn't see as many people actually taking advantage of it. And, this notion of, we spent a lot of last year encouraging folks to do staycations, and, we saw some of that, but we just didn't see as much of that as we might have hoped. I've certainly heard from the lodging folks that they actually would rather consider, the help that we're giving them, quote unquote, on the promotional marketing side, that they really see their economic future as coming from visitors and not from residents, as much as they appreciate any help they can get. So I think it's just a tricky balance, but I definitely hear you on that sector.
Thank you. And I guess that was my follow-up question, since the focus is about residents or the resident consumer. And maybe that you just clarified that as opposed to out-of-state visitors coming. in, and wanting to know whether the rules of participation were focused on residential. And it sounds like they are.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
had to be
okay.
a resident to be part of this.
Thank
Thank
you, Carrie. Representative Jerome.
Morning, Heather. Thanks
Good
for
morning.
presenting on this again. I had a couple of comments which I think I haven't given to you in the past. So what I did note when I did my sort of survey of businesses in our business on Center Street, our business district, they had a couple of comments. They really love the fact that people were traveling around the state and coming to Brandon because to shop. They had these Vermonters who had never been to our town before. And so this drew them to Brandon to shop and then and maybe in a specific store, but then to maybe stop and eat in other places in town. So that was great. The thing that another business owner told me is that they liked the program, but her retail help had problems understanding it. So I was wondering if there was going to be maybe a training seminar or a video or something that you would, or a link that you would send to all of the business owners who were participating so that they could then share it with their help.
I think that's a great suggestion. And when this went off the ground, I would say, I have not been through that exact training that they give a business, but I would want to know this time around ahead of time, what is that? So that we can kind of make sure that is robust. Because even as I'm explaining it this morning, I didn't hear a lot, as I said, but I'm sure there were frustrations. And so again, in terms of lessons learned, let's do it better. I definitely.
Yeah. So then the other thing I wanted to mention was I love the website that you did. I think I may be the only person who keeps talking about this, but I love that buy local website. And I kept, it took me a while to find out about it, but I think it's a really, really good thing. And I would love to see that continued. And I don't know if it becomes is something for your department or whether it gets farmed out to another entity in the state, but a buy local Vermont only businesses on one website is really cool. And I think it has staying power. I would love to see it continue. So that's my 2 cents on that one. So I just wanted to, I know that you're not talking about that program right now, but it's an additional program that you stood up and it looked successful. I hope it was, and I would love to see it continue.
No, thank you for that comment. And I think that there's a lot of potential there. It's definitely still on between the Agency of Commerce and the Agency of Agriculture, because that was a joint project that we did. It's still on our list of, how could we move this forward? What would it take to keep this going? There may be a chance, the administration is putting together, more ideas for this ARPA funding, and that may be a better fit for that. Because it would require another at least half-time staff position. And that's always a little bit tricky for us just to be able to maintain that. The other alternative would be we'd have to contract it out, but then, we all know about the administrative costs of that. So, I would rather see if we have the opportunity to increase the capacity within the state to run a program like that, because it is part and parcel of what we do, right? That's why we're here, is to support those businesses. So that is in no way, I don't want to say dead, but that's still definitely part of the conversation. So I'm
glad to hear that, because I just think it really has staying power, and just as it's a one-stop shop to find all great Vermont items, and I would love to see it continue.
Stephanie, can you clarify what website it is? Because I just posted on the chat the thinkvermont.com buy local Vermont website, but I don't know if that's the one to which you're referring or if there's another one.
It's Buy Vermont Made.
Oh, what is it called?
BuyVermontMade.com. It was a separate promotion that we ran specifically for the holiday shopping season. And you'll see.
Oh, wow.
That's winter imagery.
It did, for some reason, it did not get out there. I found out about it because I had a local winery who wanted to get on it, and they missed the deadline, and that's how I found out about it. And I don't, so much information was coming out fast and furious that I sort of missed it too. But when I discovered it, like, this is the greatest thing. I really, really loved it. And especially for
I
all of our
used it for
shops
my
that aren't,
shopping.
that don't
Right.
have a great shopping cart and don't have really robust websites. It was just like a really nice place for them to start that.
Thank
It's
you,
the-
thank you, Stephanie, because I had never seen it, frankly. And I try to keep up on this stuff too.
Yeah, as we've just said, there's a lot going on last fall. In terms of, so, we did put a significant amount of media dollars behind it, but, I think a lot of it was caught up in that end of the year, encouraging that local shopping. And then, and I see there's still more hands up. So I want to make time, but I will just say that Representative Jerome and I've talked about this as well, but there was another program, which was the regional marketing grants.
That's right.
Was kind of, it's a bit of a bridge between these two things we're talking about, which was, the program we're talking about this morning was a statewide program, but we also did create a grant program for communities to basically set up their own version of something like this. And so that is also, still potentially another way to do this. If we can agree, it's a little bit like the tourism funding. It's like, if we can agree on the why, then we can still debate the how, and so, like, if the why is we still really need to encourage folks to shop locally, a statewide program is one way to do that. Then, the onus is on us as the state to really set that up. And that's a burden that we can take off of communities. But, we created the other program because we know that maybe one size doesn't fit all, and there's more than one way to do this. So if communities would rather, they have the capacity to be the architect of a program that's, either just like this, or, we saw communities do other types of shopping/passport things, or even if they had, a gateway portal to all the businesses online in their community. So, there's no one way to do this. We chose the statewide approach again because it was something that we could administer from the central level, and we could give back to, to lawmakers and anybody, this kind of statistics of exactly what was spent and exactly where that money went. As we get to some of these other programs, either the regional grants or even the Buy Vermont Made website, we can, it's the same thing that happens when we're talking about, marketing return on investment, is that we get farther and farther away from that final transaction in terms of, exactly the one-to-one relationship. It doesn't mean, again, believe me, it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It's just, there's different considerations there in terms of how much we can prove as to what that investment, what sales were created from that investment.
So Heather, we've got a couple more questions, but just one more follow-up here. Is that, if we were to share this amongst our own, email newsletters or whatever else, is it still active, like that Buy Vermont Made? People can still,
they can still use it now. It links to those other, it links, you don't make a purchase on that site, you go to those businesses.
you go to the, okay.
It's still to be determined if we can keep that going. So I would say in the short term, yes, let folks know. But if we don't have a way to, it begs the question of again, if we start promoting it, then folks are going to say, how do I get on that? We don't have the capacity right now to put more folks on that website.
Okay.
So I'm not saying don't tell people, but
No.
if we don't yet know what the long-term plan is to maintain it,
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I just wanted to make sure. We do have a couple more questions. I'm sure we got to go back to the actual program. I know, but Representative Durfee.
Thanks, and I'll try not to take up too much more time. Heather, I like the conversation we've just been having, and I when Representative Dolan was talking about targeting the lodging and the restaurant sectors, that resonated with me. And I guess because we're the tourism caucus, we might hear similar sentiments from others this morning. I remember thinking back when the program was launched that I would love to be able to take a staycation in Vermont. And I'm not sure how easy it would have been for me to find, given the process of a lodging establishment pop up that would make sense for me. And that may be a logistical hurdle that's just too difficult to work out. But and it may be that as we're moving into a reopening, that it's less critical for those two sectors to be the focus of a program. Anyway, those are just some thoughts. I did wonder, back to the unredeemed coupons, whether the businesses were had access to the contact information that you mentioned you had, so that if I knew there was a coupon sitting out there for someone who had requested it, I could, as a business owner, reach out and try to engage with that.
Yeah, that's a great question. They actually do. They do have access
okay.
to that. So that was one of the, in this, if folks have a chance to look at this report, you'll also see at the end, we included different testimonials that we got from it. A lot of them focus on the fact that this was just a really nice shot in the arm when they needed it. But definitely people did express the fact that now they have access to, a set of new customers that then are on their email list or otherwise are part of their outreach. And so yes, they do have that ability. Yeah.
Great. Good. Thank you.
Representative Dolan.
I'm going to be super brief, just dittoing what Representative Jerome had mentioned. Our small independent retail and boutiques certainly can benefit from buying locally, and that staying power that she had mentioned raises, I think, a great opportunity to perhaps partner with local chambers to help support something like that can, because I think that's adds to the funkiness of Vermont, is the value that we place on independent stores and retail.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just make a comment on that, I would say that, one of the other benefits of a program like this is that it just is an opportunity for us to just get that buy local message out there, so that even if you might not participate in this program, either as a retail, either as a business owner or as a consumer, it becomes part of the conversation. That it's just another way for us to encourage Vermonters to really, and again, that was, as I mentioned at the beginning, it was one of the reasons why, we're trying to look at this from as many different angles as possible, and advancing that conversation about it's still as important as ever to think about what your purchasing decisions are. And if you've changed habits, to remember, that these businesses still need this kind of help. One of the other thoughts, in developing, around two would be, do we look at the eligibility for businesses to be our designated downtowns and village centers? There's, if we don't have an unlimited amount of money, do we put targets on it that again are going to match our policy goals? And that would be another way to do that. That would be one way to then think about making sure that it's as directed to the businesses we really want to target.
So I'd like to spend a few minutes on where this is now. I'd love Stephanie Jerome to get she and Charlie Kimball. First of all, thank you to you both for getting the extra $1 million in marketing funds in H159, and to Jim Harrison for the very heavy lift of even an additional $1.5 million. So we have an additional $2.5 million in one-time funds going to VDTM, at least in the bill that the House passed. And but we don't have this in this wasn't included in the bill. So I just want to get an understanding of where we stand, what the process, what your thoughts are as this heads to the Senate, or what. I'd just love to get a kind of a brief understanding. We've got a few minutes to kind of talk about legislative activity from now on with regard to this.
Sure. I do see that Representative Campbell has his hand up. Do you want to do that first?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, you can answer that first. My question is sort of a little bit of a tangent.
Okay. So, this, and I'm happy for Stephanie to try, obviously, on, Commerce's perspective on this. We will, as you folks know, 159 will go to the Senate. Senator Sirotkin has been quite supportive of consumer stimulus in the past. It was one of the reasons why we thought that this might be an attractive proposal to put forward. So I do anticipate that we will have that audience, at Senate Economic. Senator Clarkson has also been, very it's certainly in the past, when we went through the first round of funding supportive of these type of activities. So I think that we will get that chance to make our case. Certainly, the funding itself, the one-time funding will come up, but it would be up to them to then put this language back in, either in the form that it came, to House Commerce in, or if we wanted to suggest any different language. That's my take on the fact that, we do have another chance to get this back in when it goes to economic.
I guess I'd love, again, both of you, I'm doing this because you're on my screen that way, but
Yeah, I can.
both of you to like, what would I guess what are the arguments, or
I can tell you about the few negatives. So our committee has this, had the history from last time. So they didn't like the fact that it went to, an out-of-state vendor to operate the program. There was a pretty substantial administrative fee. And there was some hang up on this gift card, like the gift card issue. And I think it's nothing to do with this program. It's just there's an issue with gift cards, and if they're not redeemed, they have to be paid back by the store owner. There's these kind of I don't have all the details on it, but there's some glitchy stuff that the Commerce Committee has dealt with in the past that sort of hung over this idea of a gift card. And so that was I think that was sort of, coming into the committee, there were people who were sort of prickly about a gift card program. So those were the three things. And then, I think it's in the sales, on how to present this program so that what it really is a shot in the arm for local retailers, restaurant owners, lodging owners. So just another way to get a little bit more cash, a little more business into and if you're gonna go with downtown designations and village centers, it should be known that there's 220 village centers and downtown designations. These are the vast majority of the state have these designations. So I think it's good. It's just those added details would be great. And I don't know how, Heather, if you've got an idea of a new vendor that maybe is a little more local, a little bit more connected to Vermont, kind of keeping the money in state, all that about keeping the money in state.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was procurement is tricky because, the administrative costs were significantly different. If I was coming to you and saying, well, we had a chance for a 15% administrative fee, or we could have paid, a 40% administrative fee, you'd say, well, why didn't you pick the 15%? So it's hard. And it is hard because could easily be, legitimate reasons why we should do it a different way. And I agree. I kind of wish the phrase gift card had never come up because it is hard to get rid of now.
So let me, so I guess what I would be concerned about, I think, right now moving forward is we now have this this amount of one-time funds for additional marketing. We do not have the tourism marketing fund, which is that wasn't included either, which is the proposal there would be sort of a long-term, at least the beginning of a long-term funding strategy to keep increasing VDTM. And so that was unfortunate in my view that we didn't have that, but my concern might be that that we would take that the 2.5 million would be used instead of market. I wonder if we can make sure that we're trying to go after an additional 1 million for this program rather than taking it from the 2.5 million we have for the tourism and marketing funding that we have right now. I don't know. I guess I'm just throwing that out there. I think that might be something that I'd be looking for. I'd like to see if we might be able to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely hear from Representative Harrison, but my my general sort of feeling was on that conversation in appropriations was that they took money for this program and put it into the one-time funding for destination marketing. So I think they would, I'm not sure they would see it as an additional investment. Right, that might be the fear, is that they would split it again.
Okay, that's very helpful, all of it. Representative Campbell.
Okay, here's my tangent. I'm wondering about getting some sort of a directory of all the businesses, maybe starting with downtowns, but ultimately, wouldn't it be great to be able to look online somewhere and find out, who's in business doing whatever it is you're looking for, really anywhere in the state. Like you walk into a mall and there's this a directory of all the stores in the mall. What would it cost to do that for all the businesses in the state? Ultimately, there would be a significant setup charge, but after that, it seems like it wouldn't be that expensive to run it.
I'd be happy to comment that a little bit in terms of the experience that we have with on vermontvacation.com, we have what we call our stay and play directory. It's our trip planning tool. And it basically is that directory of businesses for businesses involved in the hospitality industry. And the real trick to that is it's not necessarily so much the sign up in terms of how to make that keep going. It's how do you keep that information current? Because that's where a lot of these directories fall down, is that if you don't have a mechanism to make sure that you are going back to those businesses X amount of time, then the information becomes stale, the user experience is bad, that link is no good, so forth and so on. And so for the trip planning tool that we have on Vermont Vacation, we partner with the Vermont Chamber of Commerce. And so the chamber manages the relationship with the businesses. So they are in touch with them every year. And so they make sure that information is current every year. And, just for instance, we work with Dig in Vermont for all the, food and beverage and agritourism businesses. Those are made up of associations that have that direct relationship with their members every year, so that they know that all the information in their directory is up to date, and that then pushes up to the chamber, then that then pushes up to us. If we were able to do that through other business associations, we could create that, but that's really where that's the danger of, it's not so much the setting it up, it's the maintaining it. But agreed.
Well,
It's a great resource.
Yeah, but there are a lot of local business associations, chambers and whatever, right? That you could rely on. I don't know. It just seems like it would be a really great thing. And ultimately we're going to, we'll get there. Right now people have Google to look at, right? The Google Maps, and they can, but Google shouldn't be the resource for local businesses. So anyway, I'd like to see us get there eventually. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you.
Representative Rachelson.
Hi, so I just have a quick question related to procurement moving ahead. When I have put in responses to bids that the state has done for human services, there's a cap that they put right in the bid of 10% overhead or whatever. So I'm just wondering if that's an option moving forward, so you can level the playing field from the beginning of the administrative proposals and the rates that they're putting in.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I mean, we certainly could do that with the RFP that we did originally. We really didn't know exactly which vendors would be out there that might be able to do this program, so we didn't have a baseline. You can't have more than like you say, 10% administrative fee, but I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that in the future. If there's just there's no way that we want to spend more than this, we would just then have to know that hopefully that wouldn't limit the amount of vendors who would, put in a proposal, but
right.
But, good point that there are other ways that we could make sure that we get proposals that will be within what we really want and expect.
And obviously, you don't want to put it so low that you're not going to get any, but there are times that it's been an incentive for a provider to get their foot in the door. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a good way to tell people up front, because there's nothing worse than not knowing that and then them saying, we're not going to pay you 30% overhead or 26%. And yeah, and one of the things that's hard about the in-state, out-of-state, there are times that you want your marketing to stand out and not look like everything else. And at times going to an out-of-state provider is going to give you that kind of standout. But I totally get that. Like, if we can employ Vermont talent and people, that makes sense. So thank you. I ended up finding a lot more businesses to do business with through Made in Vermont. And personally, I definitely changed, my buying to even more local. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. That's
Okay,
great.
we're just about out of time. So Representative Jerome is going to have the last question, and then we'll follow up with some other information. But Representative Jerome.
Just a comment. I have great hope in the new Secretary of State's business portal, and perhaps some of this information, which Scott had alluded to, wanting in this giant directory. Perhaps there could, in the future, there could be some sharing of business names that would be able to do just what you're talking about. So that's just a comment. Thanks.
Good point.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Heather. We appreciate your help and all of your work again throughout this last year, and on behalf of our hospitality industry. And we'll keep in touch on this, and let's see what we can do. Thank you all, and have a